Good morning and welcome everybody to today's episode of Coffee Break. It is Monday, December 11th, and with me is once again the man with the financial plan, Chris. How are we doing?
Doing great.
Doing great. Well, listen, I want to start right away by talking about our new series, our Founder series. Kind of a new angle that we have through the podcast where we're inviting business owners. And this week we had Raph Melanfant. And it was a great talk. What'd you think about our talk with Raph? I think you knew him already a bit.
I do know him, and it's funny how the world works. So he's actually my wife's cousin's boyfriend. So we met there because of that alliance, and I started talking to him, and we found out real quick that we had a lot in common, especially when it comes to business. We're both businessmen. We're both very driven. So just talking to him and knowing that we wanted to get business owners on this new series, which we'll talk about why we decided to launch this series, I knew we had to have him on. And I'm glad we did, because that first episode has so much value for any business owner that wants to have some marketing nuggets. He dropped a lot of bombs on us. Even we had to sit back and say, okay, what are we going to do with our marketing? We're going to have to put some more budget in, or are we going to have to revamp a few other things with our marketing team? So it was good to have him on. What did you think about the our first guest on the show?
No, it was great, and honestly, it was an easy conversation. I
Yeah.
think talking to business owners, they're the easiest people to talk to because they're so passionate about what they're doing. You know, they love what they do every day, and if they don't do anything, nothing happens. So it's on their mind constantly. Same as with us, so we can easily relate. One thing that I hope gets clipped from the podcast, and it's not necessarily a marketing thing, but what I really loved is at some point he mentioned how sometimes it takes 10 tries in order to achieve something, and he's like,
Mm-hmm.
you have to go through the first 9 failures. So
Yeah.
whenever something doesn't go his way, he just sees it as, okay, well, now it's one less to go before I get to the one that actually where I get it right. And I like that, and I want to ask him about like his relationship with failure, because
Yeah.
I think that business owners have a strange relationship where we kind of accept it and we see it as progress.
We have to be, as a business owner, we have to have that resiliency. If not, it would be way too easy to quit and seek comfort. So I agree on that failure side. I mean, we've both had many failures even throughout our business, and sometimes it can be small little losses. But at the end of the day, we know what our vision is, we know what the direction is, and we just keep following it day after day after day. So it's that. Zach, I want you maybe to explain to our listeners. So we have FG and Associates, which is our financial services firm. Why did we start bringing business owners onto our platform, onto our podcast? What's coming? What are we thinking? And where are we going with this?
So basically, that was the first episode of our Founders series. Our Founders series is really to bring business owners on so they can talk about their journey as an entrepreneur, to talk about where they're at right now, where their company is, and obviously talk about the vision and how they want to achieve it and all that. Basically, the goal by going through the whole journey where they are at right now, where they're going, is to hopefully provide some inspiration for people watching at home, something where they listen to a business owner and can relate to the story, because often, and I would be confident saying 99.99% of the time, it was a bumpy road before they got where they are now.
Yeah.
But usually we only seem to see once Jeff Bezos is out of that shitty office and he's running the Amazon we know today, all those things. So it's for, first of all, to give platforms to entrepreneurs in Quebec and business owners, and then to inspire the next generation of business owners. But the reason why now we're focusing a lot on business owners, and you hear us a lot in our content now, we're talking more about exit planning and value acceleration, things like that for business owners, is that at FG and Associates, it's really hard for us to work with these business owners. Why is that? Well, because a business owner is going to put money back into the business. Whereas someone who's a salaried employee, well, they put money into their pension plan, so they're preparing for retirement. But business owners put money back into the business with the plan eventually of exiting their business, so selling their business to fund their retirement, or some exit a company to fund their next business venture. But most of them, you have one business, and then their goal is to eventually sell to fund the retirement. However, me and Chris we didn't figure it out. We learned that 80% of businesses in North America that go to market fail to sell. So that's why usually you'll see just liquidation sales where people are just selling their equipment, their materials, and probably the real estate they own for the business if they do own it.
Yeah.
So that was the main issue. And before meeting Chris, I was trying to start my own business as a business consultant specifically. Why? Because it was hard to me to just pick one industry. So I thought, if I specialize in actually business, the core of business operations, how do I help people maximize their business, whatever the industry is? Well, then I won't have to pick a specific industry. So start working with Chris, and now we're finally came full circle where now we can add this to our services, which is why now we're going to have a new company that's going to be under the FG Group umbrella, but it's going to be called Founders. And at first it was maybe FG Corporate, but compliance wise, it's too similar. So the new company is going to be called Founders. It's a value acceleration exit planning company where we're going to help business owners, two types of business owners: the ones who are trying to sell in the next 5 to 10 years. We're going
Yeah.
to help them prepare, know what makes a business attractive on the market. And the second one is the people who aren't willing to sell right now, but understand that if your business is more valuable, well, every dollar of revenue, for every dollar of revenue you bring in, you'll be able to keep a little bit more. So increasing your value increases your earnings today, which is why we say exit planning isn't only a strategy for the future, it's actually good business strategy. So after all that, that's really why now we want to give a platform to entrepreneurs, and also we're going to help them, help current business owners through Founders, and help the future generation of business owners and entrepreneurs through the Founders series on our podcast.
That's it, Zach. What's great is every single person we meet, we look to maximize the ROI, the return on investment on every dollar that they have. So when we meet a personal client, they have money left over, we want to invest it, we do tax optimization, we max out their RSPs or TFSAs, we look if there's other possibilities for non-registered corporate investments, we take it from there. And now we can do that for business owners. And as you said, for most business owners, the quickest way they can multiply their net worth and their wealth is by maximizing the value of their business. So that's where if we can add a multiple or double the multiple or whatnot, that could be hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars that we add in the value of their business once they're about to sell or transition, and optimizing the ways that they can sell as well. Exploring those, it's going to make a big difference in that transition process too.
And what's crazy is that we're not telling them to find 1,000 new clients, and that's not how they increase the value of their business. I'll give you three quick examples. Example number one: let's say you own a restaurant, and the head chef has a ton of great recipes, which makes the restaurant rolling. There's a lineup every night,
Yeah.
but the recipes are all in his head. And now you're trying to sell this restaurant. Well, the person buying the restaurant knows that if anything happens to that chef, he loses everything. So a small, quick way to increase the value of your business is all that intellectual property, the know-how of how you treat your clients, how you process a new client. What are the recipes? What's the secret behind your business? Well, if you package that and share with the employees, well, then there's value, because once you leave, the know-how is still there. Another way is if you look at a business owner and their company, 80% of their income comes from 3 clients. Well, then
Yeah.
there's a big issue with the diversification of their client base. So that's one thing you got to work with them and just at least make them aware that that's going to affect the value of their business once it does go to market, because someone's going to see it and say, okay, well, if I lose any of those 3, it's a massive impact on the entire business. Doesn't mean it's not going to sell, but it means that the value from the buyer's perspective is going to be much lower.
Exactly.
And what would be another one? Just overall, the business being independent from the owner. The more business is independent from the owner, the more the buyer knows that once the owner actually leaves and sells him the business, well, the business can still run. It's not all dependent on one person. So basically, I'm saying that to say that, first of all, it's not a quick fix. It's never going to be a quick fix. These are things that take months and months and months and most probably multiple years. But it's not anything like, okay, well, we need to find you 1,000 new clients. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking
Mm-hmm.
about efficiency. We're talking about reducing risk, whether it's risk based off only a few customers or risk within the business. So there's a ton of things we can do, but I think it's really underrated thinking as a value creator, because most business owners are lifestyle business owners where they are the business. They just live through the business, but if there's no them, there's no business.
Right.
A value creator understands that he creates value within the business so that eventually he can exit, whether it's retirement or just a new business venture he wants to go on.
Another point that's important to know too, a lot of consultants, they'll go in, they'll do a mandate, they'll be there maybe for 1 or 2 months, sometimes even longer, but they're going to look at one specific issue, they'll give the report, and then they're out. They're done. What's great about this is that we establish a long-term relationship with the business. These cycles can go on for years, where we're constantly adding value through these 90-day sprints, which is a concept we'll touch upon there on another podcast on how we actually, the mechanism behind our value acceleration program, which we learned through our CEPA designation as well. So that is extremely important. And not just that, we look at the personal side as well. Because there's one thing, there's business value acceleration, but we're going to actually sit down with the owner and look at what's going to be post exit. What are they going to be expecting? Do they have any plans? Are they going to have enough money to be able to retire and live life on their own terms? So we're going to be able to bring these two paths and make sure that we reach that destination with the same goals in mind on both sides of the business. And that too, we can't forget, because sometimes we just look at the numbers, we just look at the business, we get so involved in it that they don't know what they're going to do after the business, because their whole lives are literally tied to that business. I know some business owners that they're still in their 70s and they're still working every single day because that's what they've been doing for the past 60 or 50 years, you know? So looking at those two sides is going to be very important as well on our side.
Yeah, no, I like that. And when you say like the two paths, that's another thing where that's going to affect the value of your business. Take, for
Mm-hmm.
example, you're looking at a business right now, you're going through due diligence, the business looks great, it's profitable, it's promising, it's growing, so you're really considering buying this business. Then you have a conversation with the owner, and he doesn't really seem committed to actually selling this business. He doesn't know what he's going to do after. He some days he's really into it, into selling, and then some days he's like, oh, I think I should keep it or whatever. Well, you're about to spend a lot more money on due diligence to look at the insides. That really, you end up dissecting this company to know, is it worth me buying? But if
Mm-hmm.
you have any doubt that the owner might have cold feet and not sell, are you going to invest all that time into buying that business? Maybe you are, but you're going to offer a much lower price because you know that at any time the deal could just go to waste and not happen. So there's so many different ways how a business's value on the market is going to be affected. But that's one thing that I feel you're right, Chris, that business consultants, we might not see as much of them hit the personal side. And that's where I think FG and Associates is going to be a great complement to this, because we're going to be able to provide the financial plan, the retirement plan we do for our clients, the tax optimization that we do for our clients. And so it's not only about getting them to the exit, but it's making sure that there's a smooth exit and that there's a plan for life after that business.
Yeah, and especially with this staggering fact that you said 80% of business owners fail to sell their business. It's like you've said it before, Zach, and I'll repeat it. It's like putting your money into an RSP for your whole life with an 80% chance you'll never be able to touch it. Imagine that. And we know business owners are extremely concentrated Most of their net worth is tied to their business. And
It's
that's
50
why
to
when,
90%, I think.
which is massive. So that's why when we do a wealth gap analysis, which we determine how much they need to accumulate for the rest of their life to be able to live off their retirement and their savings, we actually extract the business value from it. We see what they have in assets right now. And then from there, we can determine how much they would need to go and get. And we make sure that we make a bulletproof plan to be able to achieve that. And there's ways to make it sexier. I mean, look, real estate agents do it all the time. You can have a neighborhood with houses selling in, with all the same comparables. But if they stage it properly, if they took time to look at the small little details to make the house look well, so when someone comes in, there's maybe a little fire going on, there's cookies in the oven, and all the design is up to date, it's been renovated, they can go and seek out a premium for that. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to go and look at different characteristics, make sure that we can bring them to best in class or at least above average, which from there we can go and seek out a premium on the market. And people are willing to pay a premium for good businesses. We see it when we do investments for our clients, Zach. If I take one of my funds that I really like, the BMO Global Concentrated, BMO Global Concentrated is managed by one of our managers out in London, the UK, Guardian Capital, and they invest in best in class businesses, corporations that have an economic moat. What's an economic moat? An economic moat is where a business has a significant competitive advantage over other firms. I'll give you a few examples of some of the holdings that they hold within that their business. So they have Ray-Ban, Excelsior. They pretty much dominate the sunglass and optical market, and they have so many brands under them. They have Colgate Palmolive. Whether we're in a recession or not, we're still brushing our teeth. They've got Microsoft, Google. Every single, there's not one day I don't think I've been in the past 10 years that I haven't gone on Google to search something. But what do all these businesses have in common? They seek out a premium. We pay a bit more for these. If we look on their valuation side, we pay more for these businesses. Why? Because they can seek out a premium. They've earned that premium price through building themselves as a best-in-class enterprise. So yeah, that's what I just wanted to say. That's what we're going to be doing with our clients, making sure that we can go and seek out that premium for them.
And I think you reminded me of when we look at a business, there's really two sides of it. There's the attractiveness, readiness. We put it on a scale. So attractiveness, readiness. If you're
Yep.
actually, this is more from the outside looking in. How attractive is that business? Does it have a good brand recognition? Is it profitable? Where is it going? Does it have a good reputation? All the things that from the outside looking in, it could look great. But then there's the readiness side of things. So is it attractive, but then is it ready? Are the finances all over the place? Is there, again, that intellectual property? Has it been shared? Is there a transition team, a team that's going to take over once this owner leaves? So there's a lot of things that we have to think about when we look at a business's value, but there's the outside, but also the actual inside of the business. So that's why we say that if the owner isn't ready, if the owner doesn't have a formal plan, if the owner hasn't shared anything with his team but just wants to sell, it could look really attractive from the outside. But when you start digging in and doing your due diligence, you might realize, oh, here's a great example. My dad told me this story. So he was considering, and I think you were there, Chris. He
I
actually said
was
this
there.
story where he
Yeah.
was looking to buy a business. I think it was like in his mid 40s. My dad started doing a bunch of side businesses. Like, for example, he bought a bunch of coffee machines, and he'd have coffee machines in offices all across Montreal when people still went to the office. So our garage was like full of coffee machines, and after that, he did other things, but then real estate took off, and that's what really is the reason why today he retired at 55, and now he's in Mexico. But the story that he was telling us is that he was buying a business, considering buying a business, and it was one of those packaging businesses. That plastic stuff that's like impossible to open. You always need scissors
Yeah.
because then you try to rip it open and it's impossible
It
to
wasn't for
open.
like
He was
DVDs
looking
or
to buy one
something.
of those companies. And he's doing his due diligence, but not only talking to the owners and all that, he's going through their files where everything wasn't on a computer. He's going through physical papers. And then at some point, and he's about to close on this, they're almost all in. And then he finds a letter from Costco. And first of all, their two main clients are Costco and Walmart. He finds a letter from Costco saying, starting January, like 2 months later, we will no longer be using your products, whatever. So, boom, they
Hmm.
just lost a massive customer. Right there, my dad was backing out because there was so
Yeah.
much concentration between Costco and Walmart for who they delivered products to that right there they lost one of their biggest clients. My dad knew he was backing out. Turns out Walmart had also sent a letter. So they were trying to just sell their company as quick as possible because they knew they're losing their two biggest clients. But my dad, doing a proper due diligence, looked great on the outside, but looking at the inside, it was it was real bad. It was a real bad situation. And I don't know what happened with
100%.
that company, but I'm assuming they probably just ended up either screwing someone or
Yeah.
just doing a clearance sale.
And you know what's awful? Well, first of all, we'll never deal with a company like that because now you're acting in bad faith, which is absolutely because at this. Excuse me, my camera's all bugging up there. Because we're going to be helping the sellers, but at the same time, with that new transition team come in, that process will never stop. We want to be able to. I mean, for us, a perfect transition was we take the seller, we go get max value for that business. Once that buyer comes in, we just start as if it's another Monday. We start another 90-day cycle, and we want to keep doing it for the long term. So that's very important. Sometimes, too, people think it can be extremely complicated things, but it can be things as simple as a buy shareholder agreement or just
Yeah.
ensuring the key people. It takes, in one day, we can analyze all the risk metrics as far as the key people that are in that industry or in that business. And right there, we could have solved so many problems and just increased the value just with one little thing. So we're going to look at every single piece of the aspect. We're going to be we've surrounded ourselves with a lot of professionals too, Zach, that will be able to bring in the CPAs, the tax specialists, corporate lawyers, HR specialists. So there's a lot of things that we can do to just go and help these businesses. But as we know, every business is different, and we'll start evaluating what we need to prioritize for that business to begin with.
Yeah, and I think it might be cool to just talk a bit about what the client journey would look like if ever someone does want to work with us. So basically, the first thing we do is a spotlight assessment, which is basically a 15-30 minute conversations where we ask a few questions about the business, and that gives us a rough idea of the value of the business and especially where the gaps in their operations. We look at six key factors that all influence the market value of a business when we work with someone. So the
Mm-hmm.
first one is more of a spotlight because it's just a quick spotlight on the business, rough idea of the six key value factors. But if someone, that's for free, that's more of just a create some awareness about all the things that they've probably never thought about. Like you mentioned, a shareholders agreement. Most
Yep.
people have one, but a lot of people, when you ask them, especially those older business owners, they haven't reviewed their shareholders agreement since, sometimes you hear it, the early 2000s, the 90s even. So a lot of things have changed since you started the company. That shareholders agreement is something you have to review, and sometimes the spotlight assessment serves as just kind of a red flag of, hey, I haven't thought about this in a minute. No one's ever told me about this. So that's almost how I see the spotlight. Then we do, if someone really wants to work with us, then we do a full business valuation. This is where we really ask questions on all the key factors and multiple questions. This isn't just a 30-minute call. This is we go, usually meet with the person in their offices and start asking questions to know where they rank versus the best in class in their business. Because what we want to
Yeah.
determine, there's three gaps that we always want to determine: the wealth gap, which you mentioned, how much do you need to retire? um, uh, this tells us how much they need to sell the business for to achieve their retirement goals. There's the profit gap, which is when we compare you right now with your current sales compared to the best in class in your market. Well, what's the gap? How much money are you leaving on the table for every dollar you bring in? So the profit gap is really for the same amount of sales. How much are the best in class going to get versus you? So that's also kind of an eye opening session there where they realize that not only for the exit once they sell, but today they could be making more money just by implementing better processes and all that. And the third one is the value gap, where again, we look at what is the value of the best in class in their industry, still relatively the same size. And then that's where we say, okay, well, your value today is X. And the best in class for you right now as a comparable is Y. The difference between the two, that's the value gap, and that's the potential. We're never going to, or
Mm-hmm.
very rarely going to achieve that full value, the whole gap, but it just shows the potential someone has in their business. Um, so those are the three things that we're going to look at. But the I'll be honest, I just went on a rant and I forgot what we were talking about initially. But
No,
yeah,
but
the three gaps. I mean, good to know.
you
What
were
were you saying
explaining a bit
before?
the process of what a
Yes.
client can expect with dealing with us. So you
Yeah,
went
this
on and
is gonna
explained to
happen
them
more than once, folks. So but
yeah,
yeah, thank
no,
you.
no, which is good.
So yeah, so then after that we do actually a full valuation where we identify the three gaps, and then we compare you to the best in class. And then after that, what this is going to do, this whole conversation serves to us to see where are all the areas where you're lacking. And then with that, we determine a list of action items. So what are the first things? So let's say someone has one employee generating 90% of the sales, and there's zero insurance. Well, we're going to get key person insurance to reduce the risk, because if anything happens to him, 90% of the revenue is at risk here. So that might be something we'd prioritize at first. Or reviewing the shareholders agreement. So basically, every 90-day sprint is us looking at all the areas where we're lacking, all the opportunities to go increase the value of the business in these six different key factors. And then after that, deciding what are we prioritizing this 90 days. And after that, we work with the business owner. There's check-ins throughout that 90-day cycle to make sure to see how they're doing, how they're progressing, if they need help, if they need us to connect them with either a CPA or a business attorney or whatever it may be.
Mm-hmm.
So, and after that, we rinse and repeat. And then once a year,
Exactly.
once we've done 4 cycles, then we reevaluate the business to see what's the progress, how far have we come, and then again, rinse and repeat. So that's how we get it. And then at the end of every year, I forgot this and it's important to mention. At the end of every year, we ask one question: are we still growing, or are we ready to exit? Still growing? Let's keep doing the 90-day cycles. Are we exiting? Now that's when we start putting a full transition plan together, and we start really looking at, okay, well, when's the ideal exit date? Okay, it's 3 years from now. This is what we can do within the next 3 years. So it's something that we reevaluate constantly. But these 90-day cycles and the simple action items, I think, makes it a lot more digestible. The same way that we were talking about turning your 10-year vision into small daily habits. I
Mm-hmm.
think that's really what those 90-day cycles do. They create this big plan of trying to sell a company into just 3 things you got to get done in the next 90 days, because these business owners are guys and girls. They're extremely busy, so it's not like you can give them a 15 things to do. They got a business to run. But
Exactly.
that's pretty much how we work with clients, even though I went off the rails there for a bit. But
Last thing I'll add before we wrap this up, Zach. People might be wondering about the pricing. How much can something like this cost? Even though we haven't finalized our official pricing, all I'm going to say is all our value acceleration and exit planning um, work would cost less than you're paying your administrative assistant
mm,
by far. Yet, we're aiming to add significant value to your business. So imagine if it's like you can hire an assistant that's their only goal is to take your multiple and maximize and extract as much value as we can to your business. And what they don't understand too, it's everyone's going to grow from this. The owner, the employees, even their customers, everyone will benefit from these services that we can offer.
And the last thing I'll touch on is that why is this so important? Why are we so passionate about helping people sell their business? What's what's the motive here other than just helping more people than we are at FG and Associates, going to touch that niche that we don't really get to help at FG and Associates? Well, we look at our industry, and I think maybe that was the first thing we realized, where there was some potential here, is that looking at our industry, financial services, you look at independent firms, independent advisors, what's the average financial advisor look like? Everybody listening just thought of a 55-year-old white dude in a suit, because that's the reality. That's the average right now.
Yeah.
And what we're seeing is that there's a ton of these people who are retiring. And once a financial advisor retires, if this is his own firm, he's not just going to tell his clients, "Hey, bonne chance, good luck, have a
Exactly.
good life." No, there's a transit. He's going to sell his book of clients, his business, to another advisor to make sure that these people are well taken care of. And usually
Yeah.
they'll pick someone who has a similar style,
Well, a good
so
advisor
that
will,
it can
because
be a
we
smooth.
see, yeah, because we see some that
Exactly. So it can be
just
a
sell
smooth
them and don't even
transition.
have a, yeah.
So where am I going with this? We're seeing that in every industry. Business owners, there's this massive, I don't have time, but I could get the stats eventually, in the book right behind me. But the majority of business owners are baby boomers. And I think I'll be very, very conservative by saying 60%. It could easily be more, but I think it was like 60% and more are planning on selling their business within the next 5 to 10 years. Why? Because the boomers are about to retire. That we're actually at the end of the line of the boomers who are starting to retire now. Most of them are really already in retirement. So again, where am I going with this? Well, then there's the next generation. There's this new trend right now, and it's pretty strong in Quebec, where it's not entrepreneurs. It's
Le
there's no good
reprenariat.
translation here, but in
Yeah.
French it's called pas de l'entrepreneuriat, du reprenariat, where people aren't being entrepreneurs where they start a business from scratch. They're buying businesses that are selling because the people are retiring, and then just putting their modern twist and then revamping those businesses. So
Mm-hmm.
all that to say that once we saw that there's a huge amount of businesses in financial services that are being sold, books of businesses, and so few young buyers ready to buy those businesses, well, what do we think is going to happen to the already 80% that failed to sell? It's going to be hard to find someone. So we see ourselves as the bridge between the people selling the business and the people looking to buy, this new wave of a reprenariat we have in Quebec, where people are looking to buy new businesses. Because we've actually already been reached out to for the buyer's side of things, helping
Yeah.
people buy a business and evaluate the business and see the potential. Because if we're able to help a business owner see the potential in his business and how he can max out that potential, well, you're darn right that we can help someone who's looking at a business right now, wanting to buy that business, but actually properly evaluate what's the potential here. So then we assist them in the purchase. Once they bought the business, we help them achieve that potential that they were originally looking for. So there's a tons of things we can do. You can see how excited I am for 2024 because I can't wait to get this started. If you're watching right now and you're interested, basically how we're going to work is our first goal is to educate people on this because there's so much information and there's so few um, ways to get that information on the market. So we're going to have monthly webinars. 1 month it's going to be in English, 1 month it's going to be in French, where we're going to invite business owners. Uh, I think we're going to cap it at 10 because over 10 it gets hard, especially
Mm-hmm.
for questions. But we're going to have webinars every month to just educate these people, these business owners, on the true process of exit planning and why it's not only something you have to do in the future, but why it's good business strategy. So I'll let you, Chris, say a few words before we wrap it up. But yeah, I think Founders is going to be an exciting addition to our projects in 2024.
Exactly. So stay tuned. So far we've had Raph Malenfant, owner of Bitula Marketing Agency, on, and Broil Music, serial entrepreneur. Follow him at Impossible Raph. You can find him if you go on our FG page. We tagged him in a few points. Coming up, we've got some a gym owner that'll be on the show that I'm excited to present to you. We also have a guy that creates and makes suits, a tailor that we are beyond
Yes,
excited to have on the show as well. And just
this is maybe the
this
shirt.
is Zach's actually wearing one of the shirts, and he's been in one of the suits, and
Great.
my partner Zach hooked me up with one of his suits there, so I'm excited for that there in the new year. So we're gonna have them on, and we're gonna have a nice lineup of business owners, entrepreneurs. If you guys know a business owner, an entrepreneur that you think deserves to have his own spotlight, to share his journey, because that's what we love, and that's why we're doing this. We just want to listen to these owners share their story. I learned so much from Raph. I mean, I knew Raph, but just sitting down, opening up, that's where we really learn about the person, and that's what we care about, is learning what these guys went through and what their story is. Zach,
Yeah, and while
anything
you
else
were
before
saying
we?
that, I thought of another business owner in Montreal. She's on the South Shore, and she's like a serial entrepreneur, and she's doing very well
Okay.
for herself. And I think she has a actually an event in Toronto, or she was just at an event in Toronto for her shop. So yeah, we'll talk after this, Chris, because I just thought of
To
someone
get
else.
on.
But yeah, we're gonna have some great people on. I'm extremely excited. We're always gonna have this this Monday morning wrap up coffee break, me and Chris. But then the founder series is really something we're diving into, and I think it's going to bring you guys extremely great value. And on that, thank you for joining us today. Hope you enjoyed the podcast. If you enjoy it, please like, comment, share it. If there's a clip that you think could help someone, tag them in the clip, send them the clip. This is why we're doing it. And on that, have a great week.
Take care,
Take
everyone.
care.
Cheers.